Hey everybody, Tall Family Films here. Today we're talking about AC issues that affect Nissan and Infiniti trucks and SUVs. This is definitely an issue for 2004 through 2007. I've read some things online that say up to 2009 that affect the Titan, the Armada. Also for the Infiniti line affects the QX56 and QX80. Possibly the Pathfinder, I saw one mention of that as well. The symptoms are this: you're driving, everything's fine. Air conditioning's working great, everyone's happy in the car, but you find yourself sweating as soon as you come to a red light. It's almost like somebody pushed the AC button and it stopped cooling. The air is still blowing, but it's just not cold anymore. Another symptom of this might be the evil eye that you're getting from your wife when you're sitting at those red lights. You tried all the normal things, you add a refrigerant, and you've pretty much eliminated the fact that the fan's not spinning in the front of the truck, because you can hear it, it's loud, and you can get out and actually observe that it is spinning. So it's kind of a puzzling thing as to why this happens when you're sitting at a red light. Also, the temperatures outside have to be kind of high for you to notice this problem. If the temperatures are in the 70s, you're not going to even notice that this problem is occurring. So you know the fan's spinning, still not cooling. Well, this was me 1 year ago, and it took me a while to figure this out, but Nissan apparently made some of these condenser fans wrong at the factory. The good news is you can fix it. I'm going to show you how. It takes minimal tools and minimal time. So let's get started. Okay, so minimal tools needed for this. You need a pair of wire strippers. These are pretty generic ones. There's lots of different styles of wire strippers, but you don't need anything fancy for it. You need 2 wire nuts, pretty basic, available most places that would sell any kind of electrical supplies. And then you need a pair of wire cutters. And lastly, you need some electrical tape. I have links to all of this stuff in the description, and you can pick it all up there. So I thought it'd probably be helpful to just give a quick education on how an AC condenser works. So refrigerant runs through coils that are cooled by air blowing across the coils, much the same as a radiator works to cool antifreeze for the engine. So they put both the condenser and the radiator up in the front of the engine. Here's the radiator, and then in front of the radiator is the condenser. So you can see there's some hoses going into it. Those are carrying coolant going in and out of the condenser. So this works great when the car is moving, but when you stop, the air stops and the refrigerant heats up, and so do you. Most cars, not all, but most have a separate fan that blows based on cabin temperature. That fan turns on and off to blow across the coils when you're sitting still. And you've probably heard this fan when you're idling, standing outside your car. You hear this fan click on and blow and then click off. And that's the condenser fan blowing on and off. Okay, so does your car have this issue? Well, luckily there's a simple test you can run to determine if it does. Take a paper towel or some other lightweight material and cut it into strips that can be easily blown by the fan. Then, with the car running, the AC on full, wait for the condenser fan to click on. When it does, hold the paper towel in front of the fan and see if it blows towards you, away from the engine. If it does, then you have this problem. Okay, so with the car off and the keys out of the ignition, look for this small clip that's on the front of the fan. You very lightly pull that tab towards you and then slide the entire wiring harness to the right to release it from the fan. The wires are bundled together with a black plastic sheath, and you simply slide the wires out of that sheath to reveal the inner black and blue wires as you see here. So we need to reverse polarity to this 12-volt fan to fix this problem. So off camera, all I did was use my wire cutters to cut through both of these wires. I then used a wire stripper to strip the insulation off of all 4 ends of the wire to reveal the bare copper. Then all we're going to do is take the blue and the black wires and reverse them. So because the fan was built wrong at the factory, imagine what's happening here. So instead of the fan blowing cooler outside air over the coils of the condenser, it's pulling hot air from the radiator and the engine bay through the coils. So you're right that your fan was blowing. If you checked it, it was blowing the whole time, but it was going the wrong way, so it wasn't helping you very much on a hot day. So now to fix the problem, we take the blue and the black wire and reverse them. We put the blue wire to the black and put a wire nut on it. Then we take the black wire to the blue and we also put a wire nut on that. I realize my camera work isn't great here, but let's face it, if you're watching the video to this point, you're pretty invested in fixing this problem like I was, and you know what I'm doing. So once you have both wires securely attached with a wire nut, then we need to move on to using some electrical tape to hold this together. One thing I do when I'm adding electrical tape is to wire a nut to its prospective wire. So in this case, because the splices were made right together, it would create a very large bulge in the cable if I went to put electrical tape over both of them. So I tape one wire nut north, if you will, and then the opposite one I tape south. And that helps to kind of spread out the bulge on the cable so that it's not so large. Once all of that is complete, then I tape both wires together, and that prevents someone later on, if they're working on the car or if I'm working on the car and those wires get stuck on something and pulled, it's not going to separate the wire nuts by having this much tape on them. So just a nice security assurance. Okay, now is the part where we do our best so we can get this black sheath back over the wires. There's no art to doing this. It's not all going to fit back nicely inside the sheath, but just do your best. You will be able to get the clip part of the wire back into the sheath, and but with this much tape on here, you shouldn't have a problem. And once you've got that back together, we simply plug it all back into the fan. Pretty simple. Okay, so let's redo the same test here. Same paper towel. There you go. And we have a drastically different outcome this time. So it worked. Okay, so if you sweated through the summer and it's a fall day now and you're trying to fix this, you may have a hard time getting the condenser fan to turn on. Thankfully, Nissan made a cool little test for this, and it works like this. We turn the ignition key to on, we don't start the engine, we come over, press the door close button 10 times. Just like this. Okay, then we go back, we turn the ignition switch back to the off position, turn it back to the on position. Again, we're not starting the engine. Okay, and that's all. You'll hear the horn honk when you do that. When you step out of the car, there's a power module that Nissan put in the truck, and the power module controls lots of things. So it starts testing them. You can see the wipers going on low. Now the wipers are going on high. And it begins going through this test sequence. It will test the parking lights, which are on right now. It will test the fog lights, which you can see are on right now. Then it will test the low beams. Then it will test the high beams. And then after all of the light sequences are done, you'll hear some relays that start clicking on and off. It's very noticeable. I think it clicks about 5 times. If you get close to the front of the car, you'll be able to hear it clicking. And then after those 5 clicks of the relay, then the fan will actually turn on. And then the fan turns off. It's pretty cool. This test sequence will run 3 times and then it ends. So the windshield wiper, it'll start over from the beginning. You'll see the windshield wipers go again, and then the whole test sequence starts going. The way to stop that is just to turn the key off. Okay, so last tip on this is maybe you're doubting this whole splicing the wires in my car thing. So what I did originally was I removed the grill. There's some clips in here, it's pretty simple. Grill comes off, and then that gives you a whole lot more room to work in here. Then I believe it was 4 bolts to remove the fan. With a little bit of Tetris skill, I was able to twist the fan out. And then I noticed that etched right onto the fan blades themselves were little arrows that showed you which direction the fan should be turning, and mine was turning backwards. So that clinched it for me that I was actually having a major problem. So hope you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to subscribe. I really appreciate it and hope this helped you guys out.